I'm a freelance voiceover artist. So I meet a client and I say, oh, I'll give you a 20% discount on my services if you pay me in Bitcoin. And they say, oh, that sounds great. And I say, here's my Bitcoin address, send it to this address. And then they do. There's not much of a fee on that. It's just basically trading labor for Bitcoins.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can find people to trade with who are able to do that with you, then yeah, absolutely, that's the case. But Stephanie, I think that both you and I kind of live in a world that has a little bit more Bitcoin adoption than maybe some of the newer listeners are familiar with.
Yeah. Absolutely. But, I hope maybe by the time some people are hearing this podcast, I hope this will be kind of timeless, and maybe at some point it will be a lot easier to do that and just say, hey, I'd like to be paid in Bitcoin. And your client, if you're a freelancer, can say, oh, sure, I know exactly what that is and I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, so the price right now for Bitcoin is somewhere between $500 and $700 because we're recording this during the absolute peak of what might be a mania, or perhaps the new normal with Bitcoin. You never really know.
Or perhaps this will be low.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You just never really know. So the point is that, Stephanie, you and I have both been kind of doing business. You do advertisements and you do voice work for the show. And I actually underpay you a little bit from your standard market rates because I pay you in Bitcoin and because we do, business kind of frequently. I think probably that with the price increases, you're doing pretty well on those spots that you did for me, 6 months ago. Have you managed to hold on to any of those Bitcoin?
Right. The fact that Bitcoin is behaving as a deflationary currency, it's worth more if you hang on to it, has really encouraged me to think about my spending and, how I can save as much as possible. So yeah, a lot of my Bitcoins that I've earned through working, I have held on to. I have not sold. Some of them, I had to sell for one reason or another, bills to pay or whatever. So some of them I did sell, but a lot of them I hung on to, and I'm really happy that I did. So yeah, I was going to say, Adam, I don't feel like you're underpaying me because I know if I just hang on to those coins for a little while, then they'll probably be worth more. So it's really a great incentive for saving, which a lot of people culturally did not grow up with. I, at least, for a lot of my life, I'm 29 years old. So growing up in the US for a lot of my life where I was spending money, where I was having to worry about paying my own bills and stuff, it didn't really make sense to save because, that we have some rate of inflation. Your money's not going to be more valuable over time by just sitting in a bank account. And so the incentive is to save it or to find some kind of investment to put it in. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's very different. If you save it, you're likely to have more purchasing power or more value after some time goes by. So there's this real strong incentive for saving, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, that's been my experience with it too. I try to get as many services as possible from Bitcoin, and there are people who give me a larger discount than you do, and I get notes from them. Like the last couple of weeks, it's been crazy. As the price has gone up, they're like, you were the first person who I dealt with in Bitcoin. I charged you less than I ever charged anybody else, and this was the most profitable. We had 5 business cards made for 5 Bitcoin at the time. At the time, it was like $400 for like 10,000 business cards, for a couple of different people. Cards. Yeah, exactly. But now that's like $2,500. It's like almost $3,000 at these current prices. So the incentive is huge. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Stephanie. The cultural drive to save growing up, I simply did not have it. It made way more sense to spend the money. Why keep it? It's better to...
It makes more sense to take out debt, actually, because when you pay back the debt, you're paying it with less valuable dollars.
And because
you actually have the opposite incentive to borrow money.
And I don't know, do you have a student loan? I have a student loan. I took that with the idea that, okay, well, it doesn't matter if I'm spending, this money now because I'm going to earn so much more later from these skills that I'm developing. But sometimes, the math stops working with that after a while. With Bitcoin, the math is very obvious. If you don't spend them, they probably will be worth more later because there are not that many of them being made and because the demand for them that is potential is quite huge. So it's very simple, and I like things that have simple incentives. They make it so that I know what to do as opposed to wondering if I'm making the right choice or not.
Hi, this is Jason King, founder at Sean's Outpost, and you are listening to Let's Talk Bitcoin. Sean's Outpost is a homeless outreach in Pensacola, Florida, and we are proudly powered by Bitcoin. To date, over 13,000 meals have been fed to the homeless in our area, all purchased with Bitcoin and through the generosity of the cryptocurrency community. Read more about us at seansoutpost.com. Food, shelter, Bitcoin, everybody. Sean'sOutpost.com.